Here at Q13 Fox, we are continuing our conversation on mental health, and our goal is to end the stigma.
It's important. We got to talk about these things, so let's just do it. Today, we're joined by Dr. Veronica Zantop with Swedish Medical Center. We're going to shift the conversation and really talk about postpartum depression. This morning, let's just start with it. What is postpartum depression? We hear the term a lot. What would define it for us?
And that is the great question. So as they're doing more research into postpartum depression, they're actually finding that it's not just postpartum. A lot of women start experiencing symptoms in pregnancy. And so now they're calling them perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, because they're also noticing that women don't just develop depression, but they also develop anxiety. And so a lot of women don't seek treatment because they think, well, I'm not feeling sad and I'm not thinking about killing myself, so this must be normal. But they're having a lot of anxiety, they're feeling overwhelmed, they're not sleeping, and they're even having obsessive type thoughts about their baby. And so we're really working on expanding that definition, catching women in pregnancy, because if you catch it, it's kind of an ongoing illness. You can treat it and avoid postpartum mood and anxiety disorders altogether.
How common is this in moms?
You know, so the literature suggests that it's about 15 to 20% of all moms. I think it's more. And the 15 to 20 more likely represents depression. I think more women have anxiety and OCD symptoms. The other thing to know is that it doesn't just happen right after you deliver the baby, but up to a year, women have a greater risk.
That's a big window.
Right.
I didn't even
I had no idea either. Why don't we talk about this more? I mean, it feels like we should be.
Right.
If this many women and families experience
I've had a couple mom friends come out and maybe kind of hint to it, but it's almost like people are feeling shame to talk about something that clearly is very common.
Yeah, I mean, I think OBs don't traditionally screen for it because they don't have places to send women. And so OBs are starting to screen for it, and that starts a conversation of what symptoms are. I think additionally, it's hard to distinguish between how you feel during pregnancy with not sleeping well and feeling nauseated, or when you have a new baby and you're in this fog, like what is normal and what's not. So the screening is really, really important. And then I think there's the stigma. New moms don't want to be seen as being bad moms. They don't want their babies taken away. And so there's a lot of stigma. They just don't talk about it. So we're trying to get people to talk about it more in the hospital. You know, OB doctors, pediatricians, lactation consultants, ER doctors, anyone. Because women end up accessing more ER care and seeing more lactation if they have mood and anxiety symptoms. So those people are very well placed to screen and refer.
So clearly you're asking doctors, OBs to really be the first intervention, but I bet dads can help too. I mean, how can men in women's lives help?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the interesting thing about postpartum depression is that a lot of women can get it who have never had any mental health issues or anxiety. And so, you know, dads are suddenly like, what's going on? You know, I had this, you know, my perfectly functional wife, and suddenly everything seems to be falling apart, or it's much harder, she's crying more. And so I think dads are incredibly important in identifying that this is not you, you know. Especially because they know what you're like before and after. And really, our goal in treatment is to get women to feel like themselves again and to feel like they can handle things. So I would say dads are incredibly important. Other things that dads can do, we have them come into appointments frequently because they can really help with basic things like taking a night shift, you know, so mom gets more than 3 consecutive hours. That is huge. Yeah. You know, chopping some broccoli so women have food around or can make a stir fry, whatever, you know, or they can make the stir fry. Things like that, bringing their partners water, you know, giving them time for themselves or time for self-care. Yeah.
It sounds like screening is going to be the most important thing to really pinpointing postpartum depression.
Yep, I think screening, but you know, if you're not screened by your OB, knowing what the symptoms are, and if you're feeling really sad or if you're not sleeping well, talk to someone. It is so treatable. And if it's not treated, it not only affects the mom, but it affects the baby significantly. So they found that babies that are exposed to mothers, I mean, that sounds kind of bad, but that have mothers that are very depressed or anxious are much more likely to have behavioral issues and cognitive issues and mental health issues down the road. So if you can stop it, then you're going to have a huge impact.
Dr. Zantop, this is such a great topic. Thank you very much for being here. It is such an important one.
My pleasure.
Really
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And hey, if you are struggling, I know we always want to throw this up on the screen here. If you're in crisis, maybe you need to talk to someone, reach out. The National Suicide Lifeline is 800-273-8255. You can also text the word HOME to the crisis text line at 741-741.